Hello and welcome to week 2 of Just for Fun. This week we have the theme food. I will run quickly through the pictures to remind you what they were. I will now run the images again with feedback for extra information. Fruit Salad Q by James. The image was taken with the fruit set up on a mirror, which I placed on 4 chairs, with a black tablecloth draped over the top and down the sides and back of the mirror. The scene was naturally lit from a window. I used a tripod and 24-70 lens. Just Right by Martin. I set it up on the worktop and taken with Nikon P900 straighten it up in Lightroom and then moved it to Aurora to add a bit of HDR. Lockdown Misery by Alan. Made subject up with limited food it work with as shot so selected using new object section tool and pasted to gradient. No Duckale Orange Tonight. By Al. Just cropped it and slightly adjusted some of the color. Nothing fancy. Our Daily Bread by Margaret. I took the photo in our kitchen. I had baked a loaf of bread and decided to use it for this subject. My idea was to make it look like a photo in a cookbook. This was the result. I changed the original from color to a grayscale image in Lightroom and cropped it. Then in Photoshop I added a vignette using the elliptical marquee tool, choosing a light gray foreground color. And 50% feathering. Ripening in the Shed by John. I tried the tomatoes against various backgrounds. Then I had the inspiration to place them inside the shed on the shelf under the window. This gave me a strong natural backlight and resulted in the deep shadows that were thrown. I took the image. Handheld f10. 1/400th of a second. ISO 400 with a focal length of 18 mm. When I processed the image it was mainly in elements, dodging and burning the shadows to bring out detail in the wood. I then finished it by selecting the window view and slightly blurring it. Sausage Cobs by Gary. Cooked some sausages for lunch and as Dan had spent the day before setting up an indoor studio. For still life subjects took the chance to take a quick shot or two. Having upload to Lightroom tweaked the exposure to saw highlights then decided to HDR. In Photoshop added a misshapen vignette to darken background and foreground. Did a spot of spot removal. Realized that image was quite nosy checked camera. It had been left at a high ISO but I'd eaten the cobs by then so couldn't redo. stockpile by Steve. The tins were piled on a large mirror with a black card backdrop. Exposed using subdued window light through a closed curtain and a diffused camera-mounted flash. Only basic processing in Lightroom including cropping and darkening the background card. Nothing special about this one. Image taken using my Canon M6 Mk2 with Sigma 56mm f1.4 lens mounted on my lightweight Benro tripod for a 1.6 seconds exposure at f9. Location was the kitchen table with a matte black background. Tipsy by Isabel. The glasses of colored liquid. I tied a glass at an angle to an old tripod and tipped liquid in so it spilled out and at the same time as I took photos. I used red food coloring for all of them but then changed the color in the hue slider in Photoshop, then put them all on one blank layer. Who Are You Calling a Vegetable by Steve. Now for the tricky bits. The facial features and hair were secured using wooden cocktail sticks and the peas for the eyes were held in place using goose fat, which was also used for roasting the potatoes for Sunday lunch. The mouth chili was wedged in place between the florets of the cauliflower. Billy No Mates by John. For mine it was taken on my phone. A workmate's wife had made the cakes and he was bringing them round to share. It was a rushed photo and the edges of two of the cakes were cropped so I had to add them back in Photoshop. Rushed it a bit. I could have done better with he top left. Cheers Bouquin. The WKD was photographed tipping out of the bottle and then 3 copies of the same photo put together as one. Easter Treats by Loz. The image was taken in a light box with a standard 18 to 135mm lens. It was only cropped, straightened, and some minor adjustments such as highlights, shadows, and presets in Lightroom. There was also a small boost to orange and yellow. Fast Food by Ian. I was standing on the up platform at Grantham in 1955 when this L1 came by with a load of vegetables from Lincolnshire. Or I glued some peas and carrots onto coal wagons, then took the image with my 12 to 24 sigma wide angle to try to get as much in focus as possible, selecting f/32 to help also. In Lightroom I cropped out the rest of the room, then added a vignette followed by some selective dodging and burning with the adjustment brush. In Photoshop I duplicated the layer, then selected the subject, inversed the selection, then applied a zoom blur to the background. We will run through the images once more, giving their finishing position, comments from voters, and for top 5 number of thirds, seconds and firsts. It has been suggested that the author could have added some steam to add realism here, possible cotton wool suitably arranged or a boiling kettle held appropriately. This may have resulted in first place.
Thanks for watching.